get up in the morning, I have to have some tea in the morning, you know, bust the gas. Get all my fishing stuff together and go by the seaside. Jump in my boat now and then go. I have to buy shrimp from a guy, you know. And I use the shrimp, you know, it's a faster bait to catch fish, you know. So they use that and catch a lot of jack and whitening, you know. Come back and sell it to the vendor. That's my thing, you know, just fishing. I just love to fish, you know, to tell the truth. Being in Port Royal, if you can't swim and you can't fish in, you're really not from Port Royal. You understand? It's in your blood. A lot of people who's them love one out by the sea and things like that still, you know. You know, because you have all kind of things take place out there, you know, you understand? You have some man like you, some pirate kind of man out there, who just take people boat and engine and go out there go the wrong. He even forgot to eat it and bring back gun and all them things, you understand? And nobody can come to me with that, but for go for gun, to bring back a Jamaica. I don't play the part. Not me, sir. It's pirate, they call them, man, you know? I'm a different kind of man on the sea. Yeah, man, we's hardcore fisherman. We're born on the sea, as they say. We just love it. It's in my blood, yeah, man.
Across the Caribbean every day, thousands of local fishermen head out to sea in small boats, a lifeline for millions. For centuries, its waters have sustained island nations, feeding families, fueling economies, and shaping cultures.
You know, where I'm from in Southwest St. Elizabeth, at least 4 or 5 communities, all they do is fishing.
This is the predominant type of fishing. You have more artisanal fishers than industrial fishers. It's dangerous, it's hard, but they're dedicated. They provide us with the delicious fish that we need. You have to respect them.
But today, these rich fishing grounds stand at a crossroads. Fisheries are under threat, and so too are the coastal communities who depend on them.
Well, you can talk to coastal communities across the world, and they pretty much tell you the same story. They're telling you that resources are disappearing from their local waters. They're saying that it's more and more difficult to carve out a living.
I can tell you that fishing has a lot of challenges now. That's yellowtail snapper. First time you could predict and know what a good fishing day is gonna be like. Now you cannot. And so you have less fish, and some of the illegal fishing practices that persons are employing. It's so hard because when you see even the trawler, when you see how it draws on the sea bottom and everything in its part, you know, and then when those little baby fish come on the shore, they have no good, they cannot be eaten. And so I think government need more teeth and pay more attention to the industry, because we are small in scale, but we are big in value. We feed a lot of people. A lot of persons' life depends, their livelihood depends on what we do as small-scale fishers.
And this is not just about small-scale fishers. It impacts the very survival of the countries themselves.
It is the policy of the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines that food must always be available, affordable, and accessible.
If we don't protect our fisheries, then we'll start having issues concerning food security, and then it becomes our job security. Then it rolls into the attendant social and economic issues.
This blue economy is crucial for Caribbean countries, with fisheries generating up to 20% of GDP, employing hundreds of thousands of people and creating billions of dollars of income. And now these valuable assets have become a target.
The big problem for us is really the foreign illegal incursions in our waters. They violate our territorial integrity, our sovereignty, etc. And they do great harm to our marine living resources.
A poaching fishing vessel fishes in excess of $100,000 worth of fisheries product in 1 to 2 days. So they really put a serious dent on the economy.
The Caribbean islands are what is known as large ocean nations, countries with vast maritime economic zones relative to their land area. These provide major economic opportunities, but also huge challenges for countries with limited ability to protect these resources.
So Jamaica is about 10,000 square miles. The EEZ itself is just about 26.5 times the land mass itself. And then just to the south of that is the most bountiful fishing bank in the Caribbean. So it's not unknown for fishermen from Central America to come across to the pleasure bank to fish.
For example, illegal fishing forced closure of Jamaica's lucrative conch industry in 2019.
Because of the effects of the poachers, our conch fishery had to be closed for 2 years. The minimum loss per annum was $6 million in direct earnings, and over 5,500 persons were unemployed for 2 years. So it really affects us. And there are some countries nearby that have a booming export of conch, but they have no conch in their waters. So you can work it out.
Illegal fishing has long been a problem for the Caribbean, but recently a new phenomenon has emerged, which is challenging assumptions of both the nature of the problem and how to deal with it.
Last year, our Coast Guard intercepted a foreign fishing vessel in Jamaican waters. There were like 10 children on board, forced to be there working as fishermen. This is trafficking in humans. They had no documentation with them. Their documentation was with the persons who owned the vessel.
Very often you're not only dealing with violation of the fisheries regulations, you're dealing with violations of customs law, of laws against narcotics, small arms, labor laws, and so on.
And so a new term emerged to describe the much broader criminal problems the countries are facing: fisheries crime.
What we quickly saw when we started working on these issues is that there is a whole chain of event going on, and there is potential for criminal activities at each step through the value chain, as it were. And so fisheries crime is more of an umbrella concept.
There are a lot of things that we know have been occurring, but no one has ever lumped it together as a group to identify it as fisheries crime. I wouldn't say it's a new problem. It's a problem that has been identified, named, and is being concentrated on now.
Fisheries crime includes crimes committed throughout the supply and value chain, from illegal fishing to corruption, tax and customs fraud, money laundering, embezzlement, document fraud, and human trafficking.
Yeah, 16.
And this makes life increasingly difficult for local fishers all over the world.
Historically, Jamaica has been known to be a transshipment point for narcotics coming from South Central America. Where fishers are involved, this is the mode of transport. So you'll have these smaller vessels coming onto the fishing banks, delivering the contraband to the larger vessels. And at some point, hence, then another vessel comes from mainland Jamaica, removes the contraband, and then takes it back to mainland Jamaica. And if you recall, there are about 9,000 plus of these vessels around the island. So that is just a socio-economic thing, and we try to educate our fishermen to keep them on the honest side.
Criminality at sea is a big part of it. As the pressure and the economic margins decline, the temptation for theft increases.
The transnational nature of these criminal activities make them even more difficult to deal with, and their impact is hurting vulnerable coastal communities and weakening states.
Typically, those that are really difficult to uncover are those crimes that we call organized crime, being ordinary criminal offenses, but they are conducted in an organized fashion. A typical example being that trade in illegally caught fish, you would need to not only be able to land it and have it misdeclared, but someone would also need to then facilitate the trade in that fish. And so you would then often have several people being involved in an organized fashion to then launder that illegally caught fish onto the market.
Illegal fishing happens in your jurisdiction. The organized crime is something that goes across jurisdictions, different countries. The persons who are coming from other countries to fish in our waters, poach in our waters, where they're bringing guns and drugs with them. As they say, fisheries crime is a gateway to major crimes, so the organized crimes.
Like coastal nations around the world, the countries of the Caribbean are at the sharp end of this conflict.
I believe that as small island developing states, and given our vulnerabilities, given our large marine space, our limited capacity, we tend to bear the brunt of the illegal fishing operations. And this is something that I think the world needs to recognize.
Far, far away from the sunny shores of the Caribbean, local fishers from another large ocean nation face some of their own challenges. In the northern Norwegian town of Vardø, on the edge of the Arctic Circle, fishing is a critical economic and cultural activity that sustains livelihoods here too.
Yeah, I don't think you will get it much more sustainable than here in Vardø. You probably you just see the boats straight out of the island, fishing close 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then they're back again. So more sustainable than this, I don't think you can find it. So that's basically what we're doing here. We just buy a round fish, we gut it and we pack it and send it out. Normally we send it for the fisheries market in Europe. So that's our business model, is to handle small vessels in a good way. Which is interesting with this place, it's all these small boats, and it's just this part of Norway where you can do it because you have the quota for king crab as well. which has a lot of value. So here it is possible to have a decent income just by fishing with these small vessels.
Fisheries crime also presents risks for northern nations, and Norway has committed significant resources and focus to protect the local industry from these challenges. With awareness growing internationally of these issues, Nordic countries took the lead in recognising this problem, taking the first step to dealing with it. A groundbreaking declaration on transnational organised crime in the global fishing industry was signed by 9 ministers in Copenhagen in 2018 to unite the world in addressing the problem.
Well, the Copenhagen Declaration is a description of a problem. And the purpose of the declaration was to have a clear understanding what the underlying problem is, and that is transnational organised crime in the global fishing industry. It's not packaged into a lot of fancy words. It's very clear. And today we have 60 countries supporting the declaration. The fact that we have fisheries crime and so many countries, particularly in the global south, is affected by it is basically very unfair. And that is what the declaration is addressing in a very clear way. And I think that is the reason why it has gained so much support.
In 2019, Norway then launched the Blue Justice Initiative to support the implementation of the declaration.
You know, if you have a political declaration, you need to have some sort of support to implement it and to follow it up. So the whole idea of the Blue Justice Initiative is to do that, to help countries to find solutions on how to address this problem as effectively as possible.
I think it is taking an all-of-world approach, led by a very solid partner who has a very good track record. What we like is that they have spent a lot of time focusing on institutional strengthening and building the local capacity to treat with these issues. And that Jamaica not only aligns with, but is an active participant, supporter, and expects to lead the charge around the region for Blue Justice.
The Blue Justice Initiative is focused on local and regional empowerment, and one of the highlights to date has been the emergence of regional initiatives to address fisheries crime.
So back in 2021, 12 Caribbean countries at the same time joined the Copenhagen Declaration. And they were very clear about what they wanted to get out of this, and have used that to create a regional Blue Justice Caribbean hub, which is hosted by Jamaica, but is supported by all of these 12 countries. And I believe now it's 14 countries actually. And that is very important. Because if you're going to deal with this problem, you have to think regionally and of course also nationally.
For a phenomenon such as fisheries crime is not something that an individual country can or should be tackling alone. It is something that we have to be unified as a collective, and it's something that we must take head on as a group.
We are a small island developing state, so we don't have the resources that the larger first world countries have. So working together as a united force, we'll be able to make a larger change instead of just Jamaica or Barbados or Trinidad doing it. Now that, I think, will be a game changer for the region.
A key support system for these regional initiatives has been the introduction of a secure digital platform to enable training, information sharing and joint problem solving.
We have a digital platform called the Blue Justice Community, which are being used for communication between colleagues internally in countries and also across the borders, and also in the Blue Justice International Tracking Center.
Back in the Arctic town of Vardo, the Blue Justice International Tracking Center provides technical and logistical support to the Blue Justice community to assist countries battling fisheries crime.
So the purpose of the center is to facilitate cooperation on analysis of vessel movements, and in particular analysis of satellite-based information. And this is a very important and powerful tool that can have a lot of different applications, from catching an illegal fishing vessel, but also as the basis for important policy decisions. But the most important thing is the people. When the magic happens is when you have dedicated and innovative analysts in different countries that are using the data in new and exciting ways.
And sometimes we have also questions about a case or a vessel, and then we try to look into it to see if we can find more explanation what's happening here.
For us, the community is a way for us to assist developing countries. If they find something they suspect are illegal, they have a possibility to ask us to assist them in investigation in that case.
Most of the poaching vessels are coming to the Jamaican waters. They are not flying a flag. The majority of them paint out their names and their country of origin. And this is where the document fraud comes in. The Vardo Tracking Center, not only do they give us information, they give us the analysis of the data, which allows us to make more informed law enforcement decisions.
This is, as I said, more than a job for me. This is part of protecting the environment, of course, the fish and the ecosystem, and mostly the societies.
As understanding has grown of the nature of organised crime in fisheries, so too has a recognition of the limitations of individual agencies working alone to combat it.
And we often see that whereas the police then, of course, have that overarching responsibility for any criminal activity happening throughout the value chain, they are not experts on the trade in fish. They don't know exactly how the customs procedure is managed, or how health and safety issue their certificates, or how the fisheries agency go about regulating the fisheries sector. It's only when all of these agencies come together as a whole and understand the crime picture that you start to be able to really identify. Typically, the most important thing is, what are the most serious cases we have?
And so emerged an innovation in addressing fisheries crime, multi-agency mechanisms that unite actors around a common problem.
Well, in Jamaica, the multi-agency mechanism is made up of 13 ministries, departments, and agencies. So all of us work together. The 5 fingers makes a fist. From my experience, the first thing you need to develop is trust. When you explain the role, or when you meet with them and discuss your issues, and they realize, oh, that's a similar issue that I'm having, I should be involved in the game.
It was very good for us to be here so that we could have this very frank face-to-face discussion.
Partnership is very important, and coming here today, that basically solidifies that point.
What I found useful from this workshop, it gave us an opportunity to come together and identify common challenges that we all face. And it also gave us an opportunity to network.
Working together, I think, is a lot more powerful in terms of getting real kind of information to fight fisheries crime in the sector.
It is really all agencies working together to ensure that we have protected borders and that we have a stronger resilience.
So we're currently located in Port Royal. This is where a lot of pirates used to be back in a very long time before I was even born. We are the first and foremost enforcers of the Fisheries Act. So what we'll do normally when we'll go out on our patrols, when we'll stop a boat, we'll make sure that the registration is up, make sure that their fisheries ID is also up, and make sure that all their documents are intact. Interagency collaboration is key because it allows a sharing of information and the collaboration of resources passenger information being passed from all three agencies. Then we can just come together and we act as one or create what is known as a better operational plan to carry out whatever it is that is happening at that particular time. With that being said, we can create a better dragnet to catch what we want. So that is the key essence of having this collaboration between all of our entities.
The benefits of the multi-agency mechanism were seen in a recent case of a fisheries vessel suspected of running guns between Jamaica and Haiti.
First of all, the Defence Force Coast Guard was patrolling the Jamaican EZ between Jamaica and Haiti that identified a fishing vessel, and they boarded the fishing vessel. They suspected having foreigners on board. The fishing license didn't match up with what they were seeing, so basically they escorted the fishing vessel to the Coast Guard base. At that time, they activated the multi-agency mechanism, so they called in Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Health, the Passport and Immigration, the Veterinary Services Division, the National Fisheries Authority. The execution of it was really smooth. Usually something like this before the multi-agency mechanism, it would be so difficult to get persons there on the weekend. But no, you know each other personally, we have focal points, and it worked like clockwork this time. So it validates what we are doing. It validates why we are out here trying to work with it. That's why we have the multi-agency mechanism. It also gives us intelligence to know where to look and what's going on, how we can tailor our approach to stop these things.
Jamaica is currently grappling with the matters of the guns for drug trade between ourselves and Haiti, and that is one of the means that are used. Fisheries or fishing vessels are used to mask that activity. But that multi-agency mechanism has allowed us to be on the same page, and that everybody seems to understand what we're trying to achieve and the laws that are able to achieve that. If we can provide safe seas around Jamaica, it bodes well not only for the fishing industry, it bodes well for tourism and other ventures that occur in our blue economy.
The experience to date has been a positive one, and it's hoped that lessons learned can be shared in the region and also much further afield.
Our hope is that we can have replications of that multi-agency mechanism within the other territories as well, because that in itself would help to bolster the work that the Caribbean Hub is doing. Because if you have the work of the mechanism feeding into the hub, then we're able to plan more strategically. We're able to have more innovative discussions in terms of tackling these instances of crime. And we also know that when we are having these discussions, we're having them from a very informed position.
We're not there 100% as yet, but I know Jamaica and Customs and also Fisheries and everybody, we are getting there. We're writing the blueprint to make sure that let them know that if you get catch, this is what's going to happen.
We're getting more persons aware, persons are understanding. The judiciary is putting out larger fines. The Coast Guard and the National Fisheries Authority and the Marine Police were working well together. The customs agencies, the tax agencies, we're all seeing the big picture. Our Ministry of National Security has identified this as a serious issue. They understand the nexus and the interaction between fisheries crime and other organized crime. So I am optimistic that we are making a change. We won't be working in silos going forward, and we will make a difference, or I would not be here.
Much is still to be done. We cannot be complacent. The negative impacts of fisheries crime are pervasive, and the threat remains very real.
Education is fundamental. We must be able to educate one another on our roles and responsibility and how we can fight this fight together.
And that is why I appreciate the Blue Justice community, in that I feel like if we're able to, convince our sister agencies to be a part of the whole system, then they would develop some sort of responsibility to do their part.
Yeah, I think one of the key challenges with addressing this problem is to keep the energy up for countries and for individuals, because this is not solved quickly. It's a long-term investment.
Ultimately, the oceans and those who live in symbiosis with them cannot survive this assault. Without healthy oceans and a viable blue economy that benefits the entire globe, neither can we.
We have limited alternative resources, so we have to take care and protect our living marine resources as best we can, not just for food security and employment now, but more so for our children in the future.
Individually, we are not able to manage our oceans. But collectively, if we are all watching our brothers' backs and joining forces together, we will be able to defeat the organized crime in the fisheries sector. So it's unity to create strength.
As custodians, as protectors of our oceans, there is a global fight that I'm inviting persons to join.